Mr. Dupeyras. Thank you for the honor of joining us at the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy here in Berlin and for your keynote speech. We would like you to ask a few questions in order to get your thoughts and opinions on some prominent issues. So the first question is, what does cultural diplomacy mean for you? Could you give us an example of cultural diplomacy that you have experienced in your own life?
For me, cultural diplomacy means diplomacy using different tools than traditional, foreign affairs diplomacy. And I think, yes, that culture and also tourism, are good, A concrete example, I'm not sure, but, it's about using, for example, sports or food, as I was saying, as instruments, to promote the image of a country. I think, for example, when a country like Russia organize the Sochi, Olympics, they are doing diplomacy, and they are doing what I would call cultural/sports diplomacy.
Your role at the OECD requires you not only to provide a strategic direction and managing tourism committee, but also develop active partnership with non-member economies, the private sector, and other stakeholders such as intergovernmental organization and international network. How important is the role of cultural diplomacy in your profession?
I think we don't call it cultural diplomacy within OECD, but clearly I think what we are doing is contributes to diplomacy, because we are on a permanent basis, bringing around the table different culture, different people, different horizon, and we, in a way, we push, these different, visions to find a consensus, a common way, on development. So I think this is our way to do what you would call cultural diplomacy. I think it's bringing different ideas around the table, and in the end, recognizing that for a specific issue, for example, there is no one unique solution for the whole world, but there are a range of solutions. And then all of us, big countries, small countries, developed countries, or developing countries, we have issues to ideas and to promote, And I think this is very much this.
Talking about creative economies, education and entrepreneurship, in your view, what are the main factors of tourism growth and competitiveness in France?
In France,
Yeah.
France is one of the few countries in the world which has for many years, put its culture, on the top of its agenda. And France has invested a lot, over the past 50 years, to strengthen, to promote, to valorize, to improve its cultural, assets, So in France, I think the first thing is probably the natural resources, which I would associate to this, which I think contribute a lot to the attractiveness of a country. And then I think second would come, traditional culture and tangible heritage, like big museum, and major, places all over the territory, But more and more, also the creative industries and intangible assets also play a bigger role. And there, I think food is definitely a big one. Music and music festivals are another very important one in France, with many major, festivals in the world, not only in France, but in the world. So I think these are the two, most important ones, I would say.
In your opinion, how can creative economies ensure tourism sustainable development?
How can creative economies,
Ensure tourism sustainable development.
I think in the OECD, of course, we understand that speaking about tourism, we are in a global tourism marketplace, and so we have many competitors, all over the world, from Colombia to Croatia to France, and so we know that for the OECD countries, remaining competitive in the long term is a big, a big fight, and by speaking about how increasing and improving our competitiveness, we put at the core of this the sustainability component, because in our mind, sustainability is definitely, a core component of this competitiveness. And I think, how can creative industries, creative tourism contribute to this, I think it's mainly because it contributes to enlarge the base for tourism development. It contributes to diversify, tourism. So we are not only discussing mass tourism in a specific spot, Rio, with, hundreds of thousands of tourists going there, but we are developing new products, new experiences all over the territory, and this is very important if we want to increase sustainability, because we are not only interested to bring 40 million tourists to Paris, but we want to bring, creative tourists in a small food festival, in a small city, and another book festival in Ireland, and so on and so on. And I think creative industries in vast regard could be very powerful, I think, to diversify, the base.
Well, so about today's lecture, you spoke about new sources of growth through linking tourism and the creative industries. What do you think are the most challenging aspects for countries when they develop strategies in order to achieve the growth through linking creative industries and tourism?
Yeah, as I said, I think, both tourism and creative industries, are very fragmented, which means that it's not only a single industry like the automobile industry, it's the hotel industry, the culture industry, the travel agency, the transport of passengers, industries and so on. And then this is the same with design, literature. So I think the key challenge is really to develop probably a common vision, to fix some priorities, because you cannot be good in everything, so you have to think about where am I the strongest, what are my strengths,
Right.
If I'm a food country, maybe it's better to focus on food. And then you choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, issues, and then I think the priorities,
Right.
and then the challenge is to develop an integrated vision, to work together, to bring these people working together in order to propose new creative experiences, new creative products, because if each one, is working in its own corner with no vision, it will bring some results, but these results will be very partial and marginal, and there will not be the capitalization of a bigger,
Yeah, right.
a bigger impact, with a bigger impact.
Okay, thank you for your time. It was an honor and privilege having you here with us today. And that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for both
So
of you
thank-
for the interview. It's a
All right.
pleasure.
Thanks for the lecture.
Thank you.
We learned a lot today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.